awning. That is the master bedroom windows you see. Elvis calls his friend and the guy that can fix everything in Palm Springs, Frank Sinatra. Frank sends 3 guys and 2 cars to the road behind there. They help Elvis and Priscilla up over the fence, into the cars, take them to the airport. They get in Frank's plane and fly to the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas, where they're secretly married. They come back later that afternoon after everybody has left, and they honeymoon here. By the way, the place was pretty much trashed because everybody was upset with Rona for giving them a bum steer. Well, let me tell you, it's the only house you can tour, so it's very dated. It's been left the way it was when Elvis was here. Now, this is the house that I mentioned to you that's on the market. It started off, the guy that's 91, he's now 94. When he was 91, he listed it for $9.5 million. I told Leonard, I says, Leonard, you're crazy. He says, well, I got plenty of time. What do I care? And so, nothing happened. And so now Leonard doesn't have plenty of time. His health is really bad. And so he's now 94 and he wants to unload it. So he didn't drop the price $1 million or $2 million. He dropped it $6.4 million to the Zillow estimate of $3.1 million. Now that is about right for what this house should sell for in this part of town. And let me tell you, it does not, Zillow does not take into account anybody who ever slept here or owned the home like Elvis. It's 5,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms. I think it would be a great Airbnb. By the way, Elvis liked Palm Springs so well that he eventually bought another home. He bought one that was owned by the Juergens family. You know the Handlership people? Well, Juergens had sold the house to Maurice and Marjorie McDonald. Maurice and his brother Dick were the 2 boys that owned a bunch of hamburger stands they sold to Ray Kroc called McDonald's. So they move into the house, Maurice passes away, Marjorie sells it to Elvis Presley. Elvis owns it till he dies, and Priscilla sells it to Frankie Valli of the Four Seasons. Frankie then is offered a bunch of money by a Japanese gentleman who says he just would do anything for Elvis's house. He paid a lot of money and never showed up again for 10 years. The house was ransacked, the old vagrants were in it, it was a mess. It's in foreclosure. On your right here, where there's no lawn, but there's all these plants and boulders in the front yard. This is a beautiful little house. They did surgery on this guy, and they found out his lungs were full of cancer. They sewed him up, took out some of the bad parts, sewed him up, and said, "You've got to quit smoking 4 packs a day." At least he was honest. He looked at the doctor and said, "No, I can't." He says, "I got to make a living. If I don't smoke, I don't have this voice, and I don't sell records." So he kept smoking, and unfortunately, at age 45, he's dead. On your right, the home of Nat King Cole. By the way, Natalie inherited that house after Nat died. On your right here, I mentioned to you that Cary Grant had a home with every wife and his boyfriend. This is his boyfriend. He was married for 27 years, and he was a strikingly good-looking man, made 99 movies in his lifetime. Cary Grant's boyfriend's name, they had their own home on Malibu Beach. They were together for 14 years, Randolph Scott. Yeah, that probably shattered some people, right? Yeah, coming up on your right, go back to New York and tell everybody the latest in landscaping designs on the West Coast is just spray paint your rocks white. They do it every year. By the way, this started off as a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow. It's much larger than that now. But the outside never gets changed because, well, they keep it the way it was when she bought it. She bought it and only owned it for 18 months, and then at age 36, she's dead. This is the home of Marilyn Monroe. It is not where she died, though. She died in a rental property in Los Angeles. I bet we like this part of town better, right? The rest of you aren't sure, I guess. Coming up around the corner down here, if you're going to build a house in Palm Springs, I got the place for you to do it. Right here on your right, there's a vacant lot, and you'll be looking down into Elvis's swimming pool right there on your right. House on your left is only 11 months old. Two guys from the Hamptons just built it. Isn't it gorgeous? Actually, the architect's a good friend of mine. That's how I happen to know about that house. The next house right next to it, this is the architect that designed Frank Sinatra's home. This is his own personal home, E. Stewart Williams. By the way, the swimming pool's in the front yard. These big boulders come up in the living room and the dining room and everywhere else. It looks brand new, or at least very current, very contemporary looking. Don't be fooled. It was built in 1954. Big White House, 13,500 square feet. Mel Haber's home. Anybody ever been to Melvin's restaurant? This is the guy that owned Melvin's. When Melvin shows up in Palm Springs in 1977 with a ton of cash and he's buying a hotel and a restaurant, everybody says, "Melvin, what did you do for a living?" He says, "Well, I'm from New York. I own a company there that makes 250 products that have no functional use to anyone." What were they? Well, you can remember these. Remember when we were kids, on the dashboard, Dad had a doll. It wasn't a bobblehead doll, but it had a hula skirt on it. That was his biggest seller. Number 2 was the dog in the back window with the head that went up and down. And number 3 was glow-in-the-dark plastic Jesuses. Hey, check out, look through the right, all the way through the front door into the backyard. For 9 years, this is the home of Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. Then eventually this house is sold to a guy, well, he has a lot of drug and alcohol problems, falls off a bar stool here, gets a concussion, writes music for the Beach Boys. In fact, one of the Beach Boys got married here. You remember him, though, because he sang with Mama Cass. For the Mamas and Papas, John Phillips. On your left, the Gold Gate. You probably drank his tea at one time or other. Sir John Lipton, Lipton iced tea. On your right over there, that house is 2 years old, is all, and it's got a huge, big, it's all the windows are open. You can see all the way through. Well, I showed you her first house after she divorced Eddie Fisher. This is her second house on your left over here. This is Debbie Reynolds, where she raised Carrie and Todd Fisher, right there on your left. It's a big, huge house.